So Smilegate released a World Arena Insight Season infographic talking about the pre-bans, first picks, and picks of this season. You can see it all here. They separate it into 3 stages: the first month, the second month, and the third month, and they congregate that data into this all-stage infographic, which we'll be looking at for the most part. You're also going to see that they compare the past 2 seasons for the entire year, so we can see how the meta changed. And they claim that this season witnessed a rich diversity of team compositions. If we scroll in here, you can see witnessed a rich diversity of team compositions highlighted here. But honestly, I'm gonna have to disagree. So this is the infographic for the pre-bans here. So let's talk about the pre-bans. You're gonna see that nothing really changed. Lua still at the top, Angel of Light still at the top, Noggle made her way up after she got released. And then we have the 2 toxic RNG casino units that can win you games even though you counterpick them, when they counterpick you. Navy Captain Landy and Abyssal Euphine. And you can see if you compare to the past seasons, Lua is still at the top. This unit, ever since her release, has been at the top. I don't know why they don't just like release a hard counter to her, because it's really not fun when you're forced into a pre-ban. It really feels like you only get 1 pre-ban per game, because most top players will ban her. Not because they're scared of her really, because usually they don't want to play her either, because most people don't have their best speed gear on Lua. So Lua's in a state where if you put your best speed gear on her, you're not going to even get to play her a lot of the time, so there's not really a point to putting your best speed gear on her. And because of that, you're going to put like your secondary or your tertiary or like your 4th best speed gear on her. And because of that, you're not going to want to play her anyways. So it's kind of like this circle, so you're going to have to ban her no matter what. That's kind of what it comes down to. And yeah, if you actually put your best speed gear on Lua for like a few days, you're going to take it off her, because you're never going to play her. You're going to be like, I can put this on like Conculius or Moon Bunny Dominion or Noggle or another opener and get a lot more value, or Angel of Light, which is true. So Lua is just like a staple pre-ban that you never even get to play, which is super annoying. So I really think they need to find a way to kind of push her down in this pre-ban list. I know they've been trying, but as you guys can see, it actually went up for the Valor season, and then this season, the only reason why it went down is because we have this addition of Abyssal Euphine, who's another toxic unit, and also Death Dealer Rays. So I know it looks like they're actually having these more diverse team comps because pre-ban rates of Lua went down and Angel of Light went down, but that's because they added more toxic Moonlight 5-stars, very hard to access units, right? Navy Captain Landy, very hard to get. You have to get lucky from Galaxy Summons now. Abyssal Euphine, same thing. Death Dealer Ray is available from the Moonlight Theater recruitment thing, but why would you take him over Conculius, who's way better in PvE and also better in arena defense, also better in Guild Wars defense? And although she's a little bit worse in World Arena now, I'd say that she's still worth it overall. So yeah, you can kind of see the meta is literally, for pre-bans, all Moonlight 5-stars or very toxic openers in Noggle and Lua because of the speed issue that I just mentioned. So I don't really think it's more diverse. Maybe it's more diverse for whales, but for newer players it's very hard, because if we look at the pre-bans here, we'll also see this in the pick section. In the past, Spectre Tenebria was very highly contested. She's pretty much free to play. Everyone gets it from the first Moonlight Blessing. You see like Ran, Politis, Icarina, very strong RGB 5-stars, a mid as well. Honestly, they're like cleave units, so yeah, you're not going to really have good access to them as a new player, but at least we see some more diversity. If you scroll down, you're going to see there's a lot more units that can be played, like Apoc Ravi, Edward Elric, and stuff like that. So definitely think the diversity has went down this season, just because even though the pre-ban rates went down, it's not really a good indication of the meta being more diverse. Honestly, I think it's in the worst state it's been for the past year. Out of all 3 of the seasons, I think this season is definitely feels the worst to play. There's least flexibility in how you can draft. You feel like you're locked into certain picks. Usually the first 3 picks, you pick something super safe. If you pick something risky and they counter it with 2 units, you're kind of screwed. So for that reason, that's why Navy Captain Landy and Abyssal Euphine are picked very frequently. Yeah, these are the pre-bans for the stages here. You're just going to see Lua's always at the top. Noggle comes up after release. Conculius goes down because Moon Bunny Dominion got buffed. You're also going to see Moon Bunny Dominion consequently go up in the pre-bans, right? And then Death Dealer Ray makes a sudden appearance because he got buffed to the moon and he's super toxic to play against. You can't even use some cleansers against him, right? I know in the past a lot of people said Meteor Cowrick, best cleanser in the game. Well, Death Dealer Ray kind of just destroys him. Same with Noggle and same with Lua. So you can't really even pick him anymore. That's why you don't really see Meteor Cowrick anymore. And then we're going to look at the first picks here. So I forgot to mention this is the data for Legend, Emperor, and Champion. which is going to be about like 30% of the player base. Honestly, champion is pretty easy to get. If you just grind enough games, you'll get there, even with like a 30% win rate. So if you want to get champion, you can show up in this data. But you're going to see for the first picks, nothing really has changed either from the past seasons. Conquer Lilius is still at the top. She's fallen quite a bit because of the Moon Bunny's Dominion release. But you're going to see that the units that you have to first pick now are just going to be a lot more streamlined. You have to pick very safe units, where in the past you can kind of play more risky, right? You can cleave with the mid, you can pick Spectre Tenebria, you can pick Meteor Calric, but now you're just picking like orange units or very safe knights or just fast units, where in the past you had the option to cleave. You can pick Apoc Ravi as a bruiser, you can pick Savior Aiden, stuff like that. And you're going to see like the distribution between these units in the percentages, barring Conquer Lilius, is better. So even though Conquer Lilius is at 30% here, the distribution between the units below her are just way better. Whereas here Conquer Lilius is 19.8, but it's very top heavy. So I don't know what they're saying about the meta being better. Definitely is worse and less, diverse, I'd say. You're gonna see this is these stages. So Conquer Lilius picked frequently, and then later on she falls off because Moon Bunny Dominion, but it's pretty much the same thing, just safe units with those toxic RNGs. And if we look at the top picks of all stages, you just see Savior Aiden, Conquer Lilius, and stuff like that. I think Savior Aiden went up a lot because we have units like Death Dealer Ray, Martial Artist Ken being picked way more frequently, and Abyssal Euphine, right, after release. So because of that, Savior Aiden has come up in as a counter pick. But honestly, like I said, like the pick rates, the distributions are not that great compared to Indomitable season, right? You can see like 29, 27, 24, where here it's like 30, almost 40% for the top end ones, which is just not fun, and just makes it so that you need specific units to play RTA. That's what it kind of shows. You need specific units built on a certain way to counter very toxic units to play, whereas in the past, it wasn't really like that. So I definitely think that this season is pretty toxic, not fun to play. It was the season I had the least interaction with. I just played for the skin. Honestly, I played until like 3,000 points in champion, and then I kind of just gave up not because I was getting outdrafted. Like, it's one thing to get outdrafted and lose and learn, but when you're losing to RNG over and over, Abyssal Euphine and even Captain Landy, it's very frustrating. And then when you pick those units and you don't counterattack with the same RNG, it's just really annoying. So I think the game has devolved into a meta where there's a lot of RNG and just toxic openers, so I don't really like the state of the game, and I think Smilegate needs to do a good job of fixing it, because the balancing in this game is just terrible right now, and they're just making problems worse with the units they release. They release these so-called counters into units, but it doesn't really work in RTA and World Arena, so that makes like a very toxic environment for new players to join, and that's kind of why they had to release the draft mode for matchmaking, right? Because right now, the current state of Arena is way too hard for newer players to get in because you need specific units built, and a lot of those units are Moonlight 5-stars, and they're just really hard to get because you have to pray you get them from Galaxy summons or Covenant summons. You can't even spend money for them. So yeah, I think it's a pretty bad season right now. You can see they have a lot of distributions and stuff for the rankings and stuff. No one really cares if you're not in that top 1,000. But basically, people are saying, or they're saying, Smilegate is saying, Navy Captain Landy and Abyssal Euphine are central figures. I think this is a very bad central figure to have, 2 RNG counter units. So hopefully they change stuff up, and I don't know how they change it. I think it's pretty screwed at this point, and it's going to be very hard for me to enjoy RTA again, because Abyssal Euphine and Navy Captain Landy, sure, they're fun on your side when they counter a lot and you win games you shouldn't, but when you're against it, it feels way worse. And if you look at the community reactions, people are saying, so in other words, nothing changed significantly. Yes, that is true. Actually got worse. And then when you say stuff like Lua, who previously dominated pre-May in rankings, is still at the top of the list by more than 10%. Yes, if you look at the top, she's still going to be one of the most picked units, or first picked units, just because of the fact that she's so strong. And the only reason she went down is because there's more toxic units, right? So I understand if Smilegate wants to release strong units, but if you release toxic RNG units, it kind of takes the fun out of it. So hopefully they make some changes. So yeah, people are saying just do your job and nerf all this stuff. Honestly, I wouldn't mind nerfs with, obviously compensation, because the balance is just terrible. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought about this season. People are also complaining how Ikarina is still the highest win rate hero, but completely unobtainable for anyone who started after a collab. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff that is making the game just hard to play. So yeah, like I said, Let me know in the comments what you think down below. Everyone thinks this game sucks now. I kind of think the game is not terrible yet, but it's getting worse. So if you guys agree with me, let me know down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.